Welcome to Let's Chat with Julie Lewin and the Spirit Talk series, where we delve into the realms of intuition, energy, and spiritual awakening, uncovering the wisdom that resides within each of us and the universe at large. I'm your host, Julie Lewin. Thank you for joining us. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat with Julie Lewin. And today we have Phyllis Okon with us. And my goodness, what an impressive woman she is. She is still the owner of a business she started with her husband 50 years ago. And although her husband has now passed, she is still running that business with her sons. She is a multi-author, and I think it's 83 books. So we're going to have a little peek into that. And after her husband passed, she developed the skill, I've got goosebumps, Phyllis, of mediumship. It had not been on her radar. And so now we're going to have a bit of a deep dive into that as well. So welcome, Phyllis, to our podcast, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Julie. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah. So I am really curious about your mediumship, and I think our community would love to know more about that. But first of all, let's just explore your writing career alongside your business career. How did you have time to write 83 books?
It's amazing time has always been my friend. So I'm very organized with my time, and I've always been able to get a lot of things done. I save things for certain times so that I'm not expending energy stretching myself too thin. We started the business 50 years ago. I was a teacher, and my husband's an immigrant to this country, and he asked me if I would help him build his business. So I quit my job and I started in the back office of something I knew nothing about. We really were successful with it. It's ground transportation, and we became very big in Hollywood. We became kind of the biggest ground service provider for the studios, and we built the business, and it employed a lot of my family along with about 350 other people. My family worked there. My mom was the bookkeeper, my brother was the president. Everybody had roles. My kids had worked there from an early age. And what happened was, in 2005, both my mother and my husband got lung cancer within 3 months of each other. And I found, I was taking care of both of them. We knew my mom was terminal. We knew that she was going to have about 2 years. They had no idea how long my husband was going to survive. They said, sort of, if he could slip through the eye of the needle, he would maybe get 5 years, 8 years. Well, it turned out she had exactly the 22 months that they
predicted.
Yeah. He lived an additional 15 years.
Oh my goodness.
He became the longest survivor of lung cancer, but our life changed. He was able to get to here, and he couldn't get to where he wanted to be. So he kind of split into a depression. So that meant he wouldn't go out, he wouldn't do things. We disconnected from friends. We traveled a lot. We were a power couple. All that stopped. All we did was go to work. And so what happened was I lost my mom, who was my best friend, and my soulmate. I was essentially just eating 3 meals a day, keeping him as happy as I could. So I found myself, I'm not a depressed person, but I found myself getting sad. So my son said to me, "Mom, write a book." And so I wrote my first book. It was a children's book called Captain No Beard. And they put me on Create Space, and we found an illustrator, and it became a project that kept me engaged. I was picking illustrators, and
that's what I want to know. So and I want to share here that my father actually died from lung cancer. And my mum had lung disease as well. And we nursed her for 4 years. So there's that resonance with us as well. So I understand. And I also understand that when something major like that happens to a person, they either go down into the valley floor and they don't know how to get back up, or it puts a fire in your belly and you just determined to climb back up
Right.
and live every day like it's your last day. And you strike me as that sort of a person. And your husband just couldn't get back off the valley floor.
Well,
So,
it was hard because his quality of life, it was,
yeah,
lungs are, I had cancer 5 years before him. I had thyroid,
no.
yeah.
Oh,
So,
me too.
oh, you did. So he'd
Yeah.
had, it, and I had had a heart attack before that. So
Whoa.
I had my own health, and you're right. I had my heart attack. I had an angiogram. I was back at work the following Monday. You know,
Wow.
kind of like I had to show everybody I'm here. I'm okay. I was 40 years old. And then
Oh,
when I
me
got,
too.
oh, yeah, so yeah, when you had the thyroid cancer,
Yeah.
yeah. So you had papillary,
Yes.
yeah. But thank God for papillary, right?
Yes.
I didn't know that I didn't feel well
Yeah.
for a long time until all of a sudden one day I started feeling better. I went, oh,
That's
right, that, yeah,
same.
because thyroid, they have to re-regulate your body, and I had
Yeah.
heart issues. It was making my heart go. So there was a lot of things going on. And he was tremendously supportive. He
Yeah.
did everything he could for me. But my answer to that was to be proactive and be
Yeah.
happy, and not fall into that depression, that woe is me. He was the opposite. And
So I want to know what
yeah.
you like, what did you do to be happy?
Well, I was happy he was still here. So I was in that place.
Yeah.
As sad as I was that my mom had passed, I was happy that she was really suffering.
Yeah.
It horrible to see her. They were flipping her and filling her with felt and draining her and doing all
Yeah.
sorts of terrible things. And I remember the night before she died, I was praying, just
Yeah.
please tell her I will miss her. I'm
Yeah.
getting verklempt just thinking about it, but it was just such a hard thing to watch. My ballet buddy, we used to go to
Yeah.
the every Wednesday. We went to museums.
Yeah.
We got our nails done together, and to watch her just kind of disintegrate, where the cancer had gotten to her brain, and she was having seizures, and
Oh,
it was horrible.
yeah.
And so I well, the first thing I did when they got there, I was going to start doing yoga.
Mm-hmm.
It was brand new. This was 18 years ago. And I wanted to get firm. I was a ballerina when I was young. And of course,
Yeah.
you stop dancing, you gain weight, all those
Yeah.
other things. And so I wanted to go back to yoga. I felt it was a gentle exercise. And when they got their diagnosis, I couldn't spare the time to go to a studio. So I actually asked an instructor to come to my house. So
Yeah.
2 days a week,
Can
I
I just interrupt? I did the exact same thing. Yeah. I
well, it's
went
also
to her house. Yeah.
yeah, no, she came here.
Yeah.
18 years later, she's still coming here
Oh,
Tuesdays and
bless
Thursdays.
her.
But yeah, and what happened was the yoga, when I would go downstairs for 1 hour and do
Mm.
yoga twice a week, it was kind of like I was so busy thinking of not falling over, or holding a pose, that I wasn't thinking about cancer and what I have to make them to eat or to get the medicine, whatever it was for that 1 hour.
Yeah.
I was just giving self-care to me.
Yeah.
And that started, well, I didn't even realize, but that even started me on my journey to mediumship. Because when you do
Right.
yoga, you have to quiet your mind a little bit. You
You
have to like
do.
the monkey mind. And
Yes.
that was the beginning of it. And I didn't even realize that I was doing it. But going back to the book was named to Kirkus's Best, which apparently was a big deal. I didn't know it until I got the call from Create Space. They were like so excited. And my husband turned to me and he said, "You have to write books. You were meant to do this." So I started churning out books, and I did the Captain Nobiet series. I wrote a book for each of my grandchildren where there are characters
Oh,
in it. And then I did a series, If You Were Me and Lived In. And what the If You Were Me and Lived In, I went back to my social studies roots.
yeah.
It's for, I was in Vegas with my grandchildren, and one of the kids said, "What's that?" And he pointed to the Eiffel Tower. how do you explain what is the Eiffel Tower? It's an icon.
Yeah.
So I went, he was 4,
Yeah.
and I went home and I started the book, If You Were Me, and lived in, and I picked different countries, and I did what your name would be, how you would spend money, what you would call mommy, what you would call daddy, all the different, and I did If You Were Me, and lived in Australia. So it's like that
Oh,
was first 5 books. But
wow.
I visited places in my head. I became an
Yeah.
on traveler, and I went to places that I would never think of going to. Like I was not allowed. We couldn't travel. He couldn't go anywhere. So I was picking places that I didn't think I'd get to see, like Norway or Mexico or South.
Yeah.
So I did that book.
And so what did you do? Like, did you imagine yourself as a tourist in those places?
That's exactly right. I imagined myself as a child living in that country.
Right.
I paired up with an illustrator, and I said to her, I want to be respectful. I don't want to be cartoonish. I want it to be where a child, and a lot of teachers, it became very big with the homeschoolers. And what
Okay.
they do is they'd buy one of the 23 books and then say, let's make a chart. If you lived in China, if you lived in Greece, if you lived in Kenya, what would you call mommy? And we would look at how does it change as you move around the globe?
That's
How did
amazing.
it was really fun. And then what your name would be, in all these different countries, all the things that I was, where you'd go on vacation, all the different things. So then I did another series on history. I picked 10 periods of history
Yeah.
in the world. Ancient Greece, the American West, ancient Mali, the Vikings, and I did it for older children.
And
Then
so
I,
what you were, just sorry to interrupt there, Phyllis, but what you were doing was you were in a visual
yes.
space, and
Mhm.
that's what I did to heal as well, was the visualization actually changes the frequency in our body, and
Absolutely.
that's what you were doing. So it was like a waking meditation, and you were
Right.
like you were writing the journey for
Mhm.
everyone to be part of your inner world.
Right. And it opened the doorway for conversations.
Yes.
I had my own podcast. I was on podcasts. I was writing articles. KDP invited me into the city for a roundtable. They filmed me, they put it on YouTube. I was doing all these things. Publishers Weekly met with me. I mean, all these magazines. And I was asked to write a book
Yeah.
uh, on mindfulness, and I didn't know what that was. I didn't understand.
You're just a living icon of mindfulness.
And I said, I don't feel qualified. I said, I will do it if you hire a therapist to work with me. They
Yeah.
paid me. We published the book, and then they asked me to do a book on World War II, and I did it.
Yeah.
And then they asked me to write a joke book. So I wrote the joke book over a weekend. I collated jokes that I felt were funny. I put them in an order from easier to harder for a child to understand. I enclosed little tidbits of information. They paid me a fee,
Yeah.
and that was in 2019.
Yeah.
No, that was in 2017. The book got published, I think, in 2019.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened.
Mm-hmm.
And the book became a bestseller on Amazon, outselling every book on Amazon for 2 months.
Oh my
They
goodness.
sold, they sold almost 1 million copies of that
Oh
book.
my goodness.
I know, because parents needed something for children to
For
be occupied
kids. Yeah.
during lockdown. So what happened was the Independent then interviewed me. I was getting invitations. I got picked up by an agent, a film agent,
Yeah.
and it was just growing.
Yeah.
Meantime, while this was happening, I had lost my husband, finally left us in 2018.
Right.
And I was going from medium to medium to medium. I was going, because we had always gone to mediums. I had,
Yeah.
and they kept saying to me, you can do this, you can do this. And then I went to one at a Ronald McDonald's thing where you give a charity and you get read.
Yeah.
Medium said you could do this yourself. And the last one said, I'm going to teach you. And that was in 2019.
Wow.
So December of 19, he started teaching me through FaceTime, not Zoom. There was no Zooms yet, but
FaceTime. Yeah.
and maybe 5 or 6 lessons. And then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
Now I'm in the travel industry. My business went from being gangbusters. We like pretty much, I had a
Correct.
together. We lost everything. I tried to
Wow.
my staff. We were up to 700 people at that point. I went down to 35 people. And I had to
Oh,
keep the fleet intact. We were open in many different cities, and I
yeah.
had to keep it stable, whatever
Yeah.
was left. And I found myself missing my husband, having a lot of time. So
Yeah.
I started taking courses on mediumship. I was taking
Right.
course after course. That, and I tap dance. I bought myself a board, and I
Oh, see, this is the sort of thing that I wanted to know. Like, what what did you do to navigate that? So tap dancing.
tap dancing. I would get I have computers all over the house, like laptops. I
Yeah.
never threw them away. So I open it to YouTube and I'd find a tap dance tutorial. I bought myself different tap dancing shoes, like flat
Yeah.
ones and the high heel ones, depending on
Yeah.
my, and I would tap dance to keep fit and kind of just to disconnect, because if you're
Yeah.
concentrating on making a sound, you can't think about stuff.
I really love that. I really, really love that. That if you're concentrating on doing something, that takes your mind away from your worries.
Yes.
And it
But
and it allows your nervous system to drop.
right. But
Yeah.
more than that, it also shuts down a little bit. It lets your cognitive brain rest, and it
Yeah.
opens up your intuitive brain. So I
Yes.
started getting messages. It
That's
worked.
so good.
And so then I started reading. I took one class with a mentor, and
Mhm.
out of 86 people, I was the only person he endorsed. And then my kids had a podcast, and they invited me on their podcast,
Yeah.
and they invited people in, and they went, "Okay, mom, read them,"
Read.
without read them. And so I did the readings, and
Yeah.
I realized I could do it.
Yeah.
So the next day, my son prepared a shingle, Lady Phyllis Medium. My kids had bought me 1 square inch of Scotland, so that's how I became Lady Phyllis.
That's right. I remember reading that you're called Lady Phyllis. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
And so I I know you wrote some books on mediumship. Yeah,
yes,
and
I
you've
do.
got them there.
I do. I just want to say Carol P. Roman is the name I use for children's books. This book right now is being turned into a script in Hollywood,
Oh,
FYI. Thank
congratulations.
you. And that's
So
under the
that was, hang on, Carol P.
Carol Roman.
Roman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I write the children's books. I write adult fiction as Brit London, BritLundn. And then, so what had happened was I was doing readings. I do
Yes.
upwards 30 to 50 readings a month. And my friend said to me, "You should teach." And I said, "No, I don't feel qualified." And she said, "Try it." So I started teaching. So what happened was when I wrote my curriculum, I published 2 books, which are basically follow my curriculum. They're really
Wow.
published them so that my students, I always give a book when they sign up for my Zoom,
Yes. Yes.
but I wanted them to have something physical to go back to.
Yes. I do
Um,
that too.
And then she said to me, "Write a book of affirmations." And of course, my answer was, "I don't know what an affirmation is." And she, she goes, "I'll send you some." And I
Yeah.
went, "Oh, I know what those are." So I wrote this book, 366 Affirmations and Inspirations to Live By. I wrote it on a Saturday. I had it published by Monday.
You are incredible. Absolutely incredible. So you did that recently, didn't you?
I did that recently. So did I do this with you? I asked you to
You
pick a
did, but let's do another one. Shall we do
Okay.
another one?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Pick a number, any number between 1 and 366.
Okay, I'm going to go 59.
59. Okay, 59 is I do not rise or fall for another. So I think what you're being, you know what you're being told. Don't let anybody control you. Don't
Yeah,
rise or fall for
yeah,
another.
yeah,
Yeah. They make the mistake, it's their mistake.
yeah. Thank you. And that's the
You're
year I was born.
It was, yeah, okay, great. But it's very interesting. I use this on my readings now, and people pick a number, and I read what's on the page, and it's really emotional. You watch them get emotional, I go,
Yeah.
"That is a message that really resonates." I that you have no idea how much that resonates with what's going on in my life right now.
Yeah, and I really relate to that. And because that's basically
Mm.
what I'm doing. Like you, I had the cancer and I had 6 major surgeries. And so my health in my 20s and 30s and even into my 40s was not the best. And so it was a journey. And in the middle of that, I appeared on the TV show The Extraordinary, and they tested me seeing inside of people's bodies. Some were in America and some were in Australia in other cities. And they made 4 episodes of that show with me. And that show sold to 22 countries around the world.
Wow.
And so this is back in the 90s. And so snail mail, or they found me in the phone book and they would ring. My phone would ring 24/7. And so I got famous and people wanted me to help them with their health. But I didn't know that I could actually say no.
Mhm,
And I didn't know that I could say, I need a break.
mhm,
What I did was I got sick.
mhm.
And my pattern was to get sick to have a break.
Mhm.
And that was a 20-year
Exhaustion.
pattern.
You would use up everything and
For
give it to other people.
exactly. And
Yeah,
so that's why that message today, that's
resonates.
why I've been like cautious of saying, hey, world, I'm now teaching people how to do what I've done for the last 40 years. And that's the significance of that message is, Julie, you've got this.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
it's very significant.
Yeah, but that's something I've never been afraid to put a boundary up. If they're not gonna like you, they didn't like you in the first place. So
Yes.
I've always had that
Yeah.
confidence to say, I'll do anything. I'll
Yeah.
help as many people as I can, but I do draw like even with my husband when he was very ill and he wanted me to sleep in the hospital, I would say to him, I love you. I want to be with you, but I have to go home. I can't get sick. I
Yeah.
wouldn't sacrifice my because I said, who's going to take care of you if I'm exhausted?
Could
So
you
I'm going,
just,
yeah,
yeah, expand on how, because like back when I was like 25, 30 years ago, I didn't even know what a boundary was. Like, how did you get so strong in your boundaries?
I watched my mother, who would never say no, be taken advantage of, and it annoyed me. She was really a good person,
Yeah.
and I would watch her siblings. I would watch, my brother. I would watch people take advantage of her. Not that they were being vicious. It's a child takes advantage of them, and I became her protector. And I would say, "No, you're not doing that." And it would
Yeah.
be uncomfortable because her natural instinct was to say yes. I also am very guarded about my personal strength and my health. I I will not risk it on
Yeah.
something that is not worth it. For instance, I never say no to my kids or my grandkids. They say, "Can you come over?" "Yes, I'm there." You
Yeah.
know, would you so the thing is, if I'm gonna be there, something else has to suffer. Well, maybe my laundry isn't as white as it should be, and
Yeah.
maybe, the food, I don't have the ingredients that I want, or
Yeah.
maybe I don't play mahjong or bridge with other women. Like, some things you can't do it all. You
Yeah.
have to
True.
you have to put it in level of importance and say, "This I can't compromise on, but
Yeah.
this I will." And when you realize, like, even with it, I have a lot of people who work. I don't like to say they work for me, but they work with me,
With
right?
you. Yeah.
In the ground transportation, I've many people in many different cities,
Mhm.
hundreds of please. And, I'll see that they're getting nervous and I'll say, stop, stop.
Yeah.
There's no reason to make it happen, but not at the expense of your health,
Do you know what,
Yeah.
Phyllis? That makes you an extraordinary business owner.
Well, I don't want to be the cause.
Extraordinary.
I don't want to be the cause. I've been there where you push yourself to that limit
Yeah.
and nothing is worth. You've got family, you've got children,
Yeah.
and you know what? In 5 years, they're not going to remember who you were. So, not me, your family, or your children, but I'm saying the world.
Yeah.
So, take care of the ones who do mean something to you.
And I thought in my ignorance that because I was on that TV show and tens of thousands of people were asking me for my help, that I was obliged to
Right,
help them. And what happened was I completely exhausted myself. And when I say I neglected, my children were in the lounge room with me, but I was on the phone
right.
to everyone in the world,
I
and
want
it
to tell
was
you a
nuts
story.
crazy.
You have to keep your priorities.
Yes.
You can't, what are your priorities? To me, it's always been family, whether
Yeah.
it's my kids, my parents, my husband,
Mm.
not in that order. I mean, like whatever the order is,
Yes.
my whole family, that was my brothers, that was the importance, their children,
Yeah.
the family is always the
Yeah.
most important thing. Everything else kind of will fall into place. But
Mm.
um, when I first started mediumship, I said, I make a good living doing what I do. I make money
Yeah.
with the books. I'm not going to charge people. I'm
Yeah.
not going to. That's what I said.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the calls started coming in.
Yeah.
And everybody was asking me, and they were taking advantage. I said, I was getting this one's cousin, this one's brother, and do this one. And wait, you didn't spend a full hour on the phone. You gave them a half hour. You gave me an hour.
Oh my
And
goodness.
like they would just, and so at the end of the month, I realized that I had spent so much time on that because I was making myself available. I
Yeah.
said, number one, there has to be an exchange. There has to be an exchange.
100%.
I can't do this unless I'm being paid for it because otherwise they don't value it.
Correct.
Then
100%.
I had to do it in such a way that it made it not as accessible.
Yes.
And that was a decision I made.
Yes.
And I put prices up and I'm booking, people are booking. And whatever I'm using the money for, I'm using the money for. If it goes to my grandchildren, if it goes to help, whatever, the
Whatever.
money, it's just an exchange. It's a method of
Correct. It's
exchange.
important. 100%.
You have to be valued, otherwise it has no value.
Yeah. Look, when gosh, like 2000, say 15 years ago, I was charging $50 for the work that I'm still doing today. And do you know what? The the people that came for that price, they were unrelenting. Like it just didn't stop. And they
Right.
wanted more and more. And so my mentor said, Julie, double your prices. And I went, oh, I can't do that. He said, double your prices. And so I went up to 90 and they still wanted more. He said, double your prices. And he just kept saying, double your prices. And the more people paid, the better quality clients I got, and the more respectful they were, and the more appreciative they were.
Right.
And so that's what I say to people. When you value the service that you're getting, you're more appreciative
Right.
and you get better clients.
Right.
And so I'm 100% there with you, that
Right.
there
It's
has to be an exchange. Otherwise, the energy rhythm impacts you physically.
right. They don't appreciate it.
No.
They don't appreciate. And the funny thing is, I just saw there's a thread that I follow called Grief to Growth. It's on Facebook, and
Mm-hmm.
this is a grief counselor. And I've put myself on there, and I write articles. I do write articles, FYI, on Medium, which is like a worldwide blog.
Right.
But I write them as Carol P. Roman, and I write about all these different things that I've gone through, taking care of somebody, my relationships as a businesswoman,
Yeah.
things like that. I write about my life on there.
Yeah.
And the thing that I've learned is if people feel that you're giving it away, it's a throwaway for them. It doesn't mean anything.
That's right.
Has no value. And so on this blog, Grief to Growth, somebody says, why do mediums charge so much? And I explained to them, well, the truth is it cost me thousands of dollars to become a medium. I,
Exactly.
I had to invest in classes, and it's not one class. I took 20 classes,
Yes.
and it was over a prolonged period of time. I studied. I
Yeah.
had to invest in setting up a business.
Yeah.
All the different ways. I have one staff member. I pay her to send out my MailChimps. So it costs money to, even with books, people think you write a book, but to write my book, it took me one weekend to write my book.
Yeah.
It came from here. But then I had to hire someone to make a cover,
Correct.
to hire someone to format it. I
Yeah.
had to hire someone to organize it, even to put page numbers on.
Yes.
I had to hire an editor to make sure that I didn't make errors in it.
Yep.
And then when I put it up, I have to run ads. There's a lot that goes in. There's an investment. So
Yeah.
why shouldn't somebody get back their investment?
Yes, exactly. And so for just on this, so I know that there's people that are in my community and probably in your community who are not charging at the moment for something that is a service. They're feeling like, oh, I have a gift, I can't charge for my gift, or oh, I feel sorry for that person, I'll give them that. What would you say to them? Like, what would be the advice you
Okay.
would say to them?
What I say is it's not a gift. I never call it a gift. I say there are gifted mediums or there are gifted practitioners, but it's not a gift. Everybody has the ability to do it. It's the same
Correct.
thing as any skill, learning a trade. 200 years ago, we'd be living in a cave and we'd be called, cunning women or whatever.
Yeah.
We live on the outskirts of town and have herbs in our thing, and we'd be considered a doctor, and they'd call us in for midwiving or whatever.
Yes.
So it's a learned it to me, everybody has the ability to
Mm-hmm.
do what I'm doing, or I can't speak for you
Oh no,
because I don't.
100%. I'm right there with you. Everyone can do what I'm doing as well.
So we took the time to
We
unlock it,
did.
clean out that third eye. We
Yes.
took the time to open up our intuitive brain. We took the time to learn. It's to me, it's the same thing as learning to tap dance, learning to drive,
Yeah.
learning how to, roller skate. Anybody can do it. You have to invest the time and the effort to practice it and do it.
Time and effort, and believe in yourself, and
Absolutely.
trusting the information that you intuit.
Well, it's really interesting because I teach it now too. So I
Yeah.
have classes, and there's small classes, usually 6 to 8 people in a class.
Yeah.
But I do allow people to keep repeating a class until they
Mm-hmm.
feel that they've got it, and I don't charge for that. If
Yeah.
they pay for the class once, they can take it as many times as they'd like. And so that's my way of giving back. And I do free readings, every once in a while I'll pick somebody off Facebook who I
Yeah.
know is struggling and help them.
Yeah.
But the thing is, um, it's really interesting that the biggest thing holding people back is the lack of belief and the lack
Yeah.
of self-confidence. So that's what we work on. The first 6 classes are all about self-confidence, about believing in yourself. And
Yeah.
when I bring in a guest and they read the guest, they go, "Oh, I got it wrong. I know I got it wrong." And then we sit and dissect it and we go, "No, you didn't get it wrong.
Correct.
What do you think? It's a telephone that they give you like a list, a laundry list? It doesn't work like that. It's highly interpretive. Spirit
Yeah.
uses my Rolodex, my memories, my store of memories. And so,
Yes.
even if I'm reading you in Australia and I would say, mom is showing me a peanut butter sandwich, you wouldn't relate to that. Maybe you'd relate to a Vegemite sandwich. So it's like I would say a peanut butter sandwich. A good sitter would say, "Well, I don't eat peanut butter, but my mom made me Vegemite."
Correct.
And,
And you know
and
what? I
yes,
went to school with Vegemite sandwiches.
Vegemite with Blue Star butter or just butter.
Just butter.
Just butter. So the Blue Star must be London. But the point is, they're using my store. I wouldn't know that I know about Vegemite because I've written a book about it. But
Yeah,
um, but most people, my store memories would be a peanut butter and jelly sandwich going to
yeah,
school. So it's the same kind of concept.
correct.
Um, so one person would say, "Oh my God, I got it wrong." But how can you get it right when you've never heard of something like that?
Exactly.
For
Yeah.
instance, I was reading a woman and I said, um, I don't know what the significance of this is, but I see a turkey and I see a turkey's neck. That's all I see is the turkey's
Hmm.
neck. So what's the significance of turkey or Thanksgiving? And
Hmm.
she said Thanksgiving. I was doing a reading for her. Her husband had passed. He proposed on Thanksgiving. So
Oh,
Thanksgiving had
yes.
so
Yeah.
I didn't see him on one knee giving her a ring. I
No.
Thanksgiving, and then
Yeah.
it's a lot like doing a mosaic. You
Yes.
have the puzzle pieces, but the sitter has to place them.
So you know what I say? It's about the tapestry threads,
Yes,
and it's about pulling the threads to create
exactly.
the tapestry.
Right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right,
And I remember I was working, I had two careers. I was developing all of my medical intuitive and my that side, but I worked in corporate as well, which is kind of like what you're doing. And I worked at a mining company, and I tried not to bring my intuition into my corporate because then it kind of got a bit messy. But some of my managers were standing at my desk, and I went, "Oh, and calypso." And he said, "I don't know what that means." And I went, "Oh, I don't know what it means either." And 3 or 4 months later, he said he left that job and went to another company, and they did a team building exercise where the marketing manager gave everyone a name. His name was Calypso.
right.
How
So
could
there
I
you
know
go.
that?
Well,
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. How could you know it?
yeah,
But he didn't even take it until many months later. It
correct.
made sense to him. I
That's
get
right.
letters like that all the time. People, I'll do a reading and then afterwards they'll write me. They'll say, no, 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 no. And then they'll write me and say, by the way, I didn't realize that, because that's why you should tape it, or record it, because you have to listen to it over and over again.
100%.
And
Yeah.
all of a sudden you'll go, oh my God, that makes sense to me now.
I tape every session that I do and
Yeah,
send it to people. And when I do a medical intuitive scan, I'll say this, and this. And they'll go, I agree with 90% of what you've said, but that right there, no, I don't have a problem there. And I've learned over 40 years, if I put an asterisk next to something, that's going to be a problem.
right,
And I've had people ring me as soon as the next day. One fellow, he said, I don't have a problem with my lungs. My mother's a medium. I know what you're doing. I don't have an issue there. I just want you to help me with these other things. And the next day he rang up and he said, Why did you say that? I said, Because that's what I was given. And he said, I am so sick in my lungs, I can't
wow,
believe it. And I said, Because I'm reading your holographic body, I'm reading your energy body, and I can get information before it becomes physical. And he said, Oh, and I've had people write back to me 6 months later, said, You know how you said that thing? And I said, No, that's now happened. Why did you say that? They want to know the why. And
right,
I can only say, because that's the information I was given.
right. That's what I saw, that's what I felt, that's what I sensed, whatever.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. And it would be the same for you, I imagine.
Well, I don't do anything medical, and pretty much I stick to just connecting. That's the difference. Psychic and mediumship. I connect with one of the relatives on the other side, and
Mm,
I try to provide them with evidence that this is them by finding something to say about them that is not
that no
common.
one else knows.
No one
Yeah.
else knows. And then I try, usually my mediumship um, sessions end with a message of
Hmm.
closure,
Yeah.
comfort. It's more about they know you were there at the end. They know
Yeah.
you were holding their hands.
Yeah.
Um, they're sorry they said the thing that they said.
Mm,
You were
yeah.
right, you were wrong,
Yeah.
or just you were the best daughter I ever. Whatever it is, it's usually
Yeah.
just to bring closure and comfort.
Yeah. And that's what I think is so beautiful about mediumship is that it's a healing, heart healing
Mhm.
journey for the people because their heart sore
Yes.
about losing their loved one. Yeah.
Right. A lot of grief. And I know how I felt when I lost my father and my mother
Mm,
and
yeah.
husband. And it's a feeling like I'm never going to see them again. And it's heartbreaking because you
Yeah.
love them. And I was
Yeah.
with them 48 years. We were together every single day of our lives,
Yeah. Do
and
you feel your husband?
all the time.
Yeah.
Time. Yeah.
And do you feel your mum and your dad?
Yep, I can hear them individually. I know which one is next to me. I can feel them, telling me whatever it is I need to hear. I know when my father's there, I can tell the difference. It's different energy from my mother. Uh,
Yeah.
feel my grandmother. I feel all the different. I have a grandmother that I've never met that I've actually reconnected with. She died about 6 years before I was born, and she's actually been one of my guides, and I never realized it. And I've subsequently gotten familiar with her now.
That's the same for me. And what happened was I was running a meditation class and we could smell this beautiful smell. And my friend said, I said, can you guys smell it? And they said, yes. And she said, do you want to know who it is? I said, please. She said, well, she says her name's Rose and that she's your grandmother. I said, no, my grandmother's name is Victoria, but she has a sister called Rose. So it must be my mum's Auntie Rose. And she goes, no, she's definitely saying she's your grandmother. And I went, okay, okay, well, we'll leave it at that. And I think it was violets that we were smelling. So, you know how that violet perfume is so strong.
Strong.
So the next morning, I rang my mum and I said, you'll never guess, Mum, Auntie Rose came to visit last night. But she said she was my grandmother. And Mum goes, Julie, you know that grandma's mother's name was Rose? I said, no. She said, yes, she's my grandmother, your great
Right.
grandmother. And I said, and she said that I saw her. And she said, well, yes, she did come to visit you when you were little. And I said, oh. And she said she always wore violets as a posy on her dress, whether it was fresh violets or fake violets. And I
Yeah,
went, that is just wild. And so Grandma Rose is one of my guides as well.
that's terrific.
Yeah, yeah. So there's so many similarities that we've experienced.
Mhm.
And now I want to come back to your books about the medium
Right.
because I think that my community might want to buy those.
Oh, I hope so.
So
Yeah,
yeah, and the other ones as well.
sure. Mediumship made easy. And
Yeah,
expanding mediumship, but better yet, let them sign up for the course.
I know. So is
Yeah,
that in your books, the signing up for the course?
no, no, they go to my website, Lady
Okay,
Phil.
because I already have a friend who I think would be interested.
Yeah, I have a number of students from New Zealand and Australia.
That's awesome.
I have a great community there,
Yeah.
and oddly enough, most of them are therapists that have decided to tap into their intuitive side to help with their patients, which I think
That's
is what.
incredible, because what I'm finding with my Arakira work is they're therapists and counselors, and they're using my work to help their clients as well.
Right. It's about time for us to expand our brain to include stuff we don't see, hear, or touch. We don't have to be
I
so
love
dependently
that.
Western
Hmm.
style.
Yeah,
So much more.
yeah,
Um, there's so much more.
absolutely. So now, today, as in 2024, what are the things that you do for your inner work, for your self-care? What do you do this year?
Well, there's one thing that I absolutely do.
Yeah.
That's eat ice cream. There's nothing.
Go you. Do you
Well,
make
not
it yourself or do you
no,
buy it?
I buy it, but I can't eat ice cream anymore. I'm allergic to it, so I eat the substitutes, the coconut or
Uh-huh.
the oat milk ice cream. So that always makes me feel good to sit and watch TV and have a
Yeah.
little pint of ice cream and take a few bites. Like, doesn't that
Yeah.
make you feel better, right? Whatever you're going
Yeah.
through today, ice cream makes you smile.
My husband makes coconut milk ice cream.
It's delicious. I eat coconut milk, oat milk,
Yeah.
cashew milk, whatever.
Yeah.
S- I found out I was allergic to milk about 4 years ago, and I gave it
Yeah.
up. Dairy.
Yeah. So I'm lactose free, but I still do eat the lactose free cheese and the milk, but not very. I don't do the cheese very often, but I do like my lactose free milk. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But I still do yoga twice a week,
Okay.
and I don't miss that.
Yeah.
Wherever I am, I'll do yoga.
Yeah.
Um, I watch a lot of junk TV.
Same.
Yeah, by 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. I shut down.
Uh-huh.
I don't take any orders. I don't take any, other than the kids calling me because they have a question about the
Hmm.
business, whatever. We
Yeah.
shut down and I put on the TV, whether it's Netflix or it's,
Yeah.
Peacock or whatever it is, and I'll watch a movie or just to unwind. I read.
Yes.
I do read a lot.
Yep. Yep. So we're so similar. I watch a lot of YouTube. I've got my YouTube favorites, and their YouTube channel. They drop their episode every week, and so that's I look for that, and it kind of, for me, it's I don't have to think about anything,
Yes.
and that's that same dropping of my mind,
Mm-hmm.
um so that I'm not thinking about work, because I work from home, and so there's kind of that I can work or I can't work at any time during the day. And so I make a point of just dropping and doing nothing. And my husband usually looks after the garden.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had this vision of getting out in the garden and doing some gardening. And I did that on Sunday for 2 hours. And I thought, wow, this is fun. This is nice. So I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
do more gardening.
Yeah, I sit outside, watch
Yeah.
the do something, reconnect with nature.
Yes.
I look at pictures. Sometimes I'll
Yeah.
just sit, look at the pictures. I have a whole room filled with um, photo albums.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
you have to turn down the noise.
I love
That's
that. I love that. Yeah. And so moving forward in 2024, what are your plans?
I have a lot going on. We opened in London,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a big deal. So we'll be going to London to
Yeah.
check our office to, meet the staff once
Mm-hmm.
again. So we have that planned for this summer. I travel at least once a month. I go to a different city where my offices are. We have an office in Atlanta, we have an office in Boston, then we have an office in Vegas, we have an office in LA.
Yeah.
And so we have to go to certain cities. Like I'll be invited to a city like a state like Ohio or Seattle, Washington, where I have to
Mm-hmm.
go with clients. So we go to conventions. So at least once a month, there's a trip that we're
Yeah.
taking.
Yeah.
I teach I have a level 2 going on now. I have a level 3 going on now, and I will have a level 1. I'll be putting up that in about 2 weeks. I'll be putting up a level 1. So those are my evenings. And of course, I do readings. I'm appearing at a local yoga studio this Friday night. So I
Yeah.
do performances, and I keep busy,
You
you
keep
know.
busy, but you have balance. And I
I
think
have,
that that's the message that I want to say to our communities is, yes, it's great to be busy, but we actually need to balance the scales for our alone time, our quiet time, our rejuvenation time, our regeneration. Like we need
right,
to fill back up so we can do the
right,
things that we want to do.
right.
And yeah,
So whether it's a manicure, pedicure, getting your hair done, whatever it is, it's a recharge. It's
it's
not a
a
waste of time. It's a recharge.
yeah, I love that. So I think that we will wrap up, Phyllis. This has been such a great chat, and I can feel like I can literally feel your strength coming through the camera, and I'm inspired by your energy and your capacity and your, what's the word, your ability to claim every minute of every day in a positive way.
Mhm.
And whether that's sitting watching Netflix or having a meeting with a client, for your business, your transport business, whatever it is, or writing a new book, you claim every minute of every day, and it has purpose. And before my mum died, she said to me, Julie, my dad died 21 years before my mum. And I said, how do you manage? And she said to me, well, you've just got to have a reason to get up every morning. And that's the thing that sits in my mind is, if you've got a reason to get up every morning, you have a good day.
Right. But sometimes we have to make the reason. We can't
Yeah.
wait for it to appear for us. We have to find the
I
purpose.
really love that. And she made some reasons. Yeah.
Mhm.
She started working at the museum and she became their ancestry officer, and she went and studied and became an accessionist. And, when people donate some old things to a museum in Australia, they have to be documented on a national register. Well, she went and studied that in her 70s to become qualified to do that. And she moved to my town, I don't know, maybe 8 years before she passed, and she found all the men in the area that went to war, and she had photos of every one of them and their enlistment. So if any family from around the world was looking for that person, she had done all the research. So that was her reason for getting up, was to do that service. And you're right, you actually have to create the reason and the purpose to get up.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, I
For sure.
really like that. That was a good um expansion of what I said. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
So, Phyllis, please just tell us the website where people can contact you.
Well, it's www.ladyphyllis,
Yeah.
LADYPHYLLIS.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I have appointments can be made on there. They can join my Patreon, which meets once a month, and we have discussions just like this. I
Yeah.
bring in speakers to talk. I have classes. I make personal appearances. So any number of things, they
Yeah.
can look it up. Please follow me on Facebook, Lady Phyllis Medium. I post videos. I put up little I try to think of what people need to hear and I put it up.
Mm-hmm.
So free. And of course the books are under Carol P. Roman, Phyllis Okon, Britt London. I
And
think
that was
that's
Lundeen. Yeah.
right. That's my horror series. I wrote a group of horror books. So go figure, and that's it. So it was
Yeah.
lovely. Thank you for having me, Julie. It was really informative.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Unveiling the Journey, a tapestry of mediumship and healing. We hope you found inspiration in Phyllis's remarkable journey. I know I did. And we hope that you found something valuable for your own life and inner journey in what was shared. If you enjoyed the episode, like and follow our podcast wherever you listen, so it can get into the hands of those who need it most. Also, your insights shape the direction of our podcast. So please let us know if there are any topics you want to hear about or any experts you think we should invite onto the podcast. Thank you for listening, and remember, the journey to self-discovery and growth is an ongoing process, and it continues beyond the airwaves. Until next time, may you find courage, peace, and magic on your own unique path.